It's important we talk about it. It's important we talk about our nervous system. So find your people. There is help out there for you. Don't suppress it for 40 years because it affected everything in my life. I didn't really feel like there was any help out there for me. So I just kept it silent. Playing the victim mode is not, you're not going to heal. You need to allow yourself that time and that grace to have those moments, but also give yourself the time and education to know how to get out of it, because I don't consider myself a victim. Yes, I went through hell, but I'm a survivor.
Hey y'all, I'm Reese and welcome to Making Meaning. Making Meaning is a podcast by the Cohere Collective, here to help guide you along your path to make meaning in a way that makes sense for you. And this week, I am joined by Tracy Smaldino. Tracy exemplifies what it means to be a survivor. In her life, she has gone through just about the gamut of trauma that you could imagine. And she has come through on the other side, not just having gone through a healing journey, but embracing this healing journey to be able to share it with others and to want to help them along their path by being so open about hers. And I think that is just about one of the most noble things that we as human beings can possibly do. Before we get any further into this episode, I do want to offer a comprehensive content warning. If anything around SA, early childhood trauma, accidents, specifically car accidents or physical trauma, is going to be upsetting or difficult for you to listen to, in general, this will not be the episode for you. I will link another one in one of the top right corners here on YouTube and one in the video description wherever you may be watching or listening that explores similar themes without touching on quite the same amount of triggers or content that may be upsetting. So hopefully there's another episode of Making Meaning that you can listen to, but due to the nature of this conversation, I want to include as much in a very real way as we can, but of course, please listen with care. As always, take care of yourself. We have to in order to be able to make meaning. I do want to make another content note. During our conversation, Tracy brings up a book called The Tell that was very transformative and pivotal for her in her journey. This book has come under a large amount of scrutiny, and after doing my own research, I've decided that I do not want to endorse or recommend this book either as myself or from the Cohere Collective as a whole. I highly recommend you do your own research, and I'm even going to link a video down below from YouTuber Siobhan Breyer Aguilar, who made a extremely comprehensive and well-researched video about everything surrounding this book that I found to be extremely helpful and informative as I was doing my own research. So I think that would be a great starting place if you're curious. But I don't think that our discussion of the book itself changes the merit or the content of the conversation at all. It is mainly offered as an example, as a pivotal piece of Tracy's story, nor does it undermine any piece of Tracy's story either. So as we discuss it, please remain open to hearing Tracy's story and understand that while this book does have scrutiny, I don't think that it merits criticizing Tracy simply because she got something from this book. And also, we can criticize the book separately, I think, while still holding this conversation. So I just wanted to note that. Please do your own research on the book before you read it. And also, please hold the utmost respect for Tracy and for anything that helps someone along their healing and growing journey that doesn't harm other people. It's a very nuanced conversation and one that unfortunately we don't have time for through this hour-and-a-half long podcast episode because we are tackling other things. But if y'all would like my thoughts on the book, definitely let me know. In addition to being a survivor and a owner of her story, Tracy is also the host of the podcast Trauma Rockstars, where she interviews people with stories similar to her that have taken their experiences and instead of letting them define them and hold them back, people who have taken those and wielded them as a shield, as a sword, as the thing that they have overcome the thing that has grown their resilience and makes them stronger. It's a very powerful podcast, and I highly recommend it. Okay, that is all I have for you before we get into the episode. So, as always, let's take a deep breath. And get started. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for joining me today and being here with me to chat about making meaning. I'm so excited to be sitting down with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Absolutely. Well, my first question to hopefully start our conversation on a nice note is, what is something you're grateful for right now?
Just life. Honestly, I'm so grateful to have gone through this healing journey because I'm just so in tune with who I am now as a person and just feel so grateful for all of it.
I love that. I think it's so important to have that perspective. It can be really easy to have gratitude for the good things, the easy things, but it can be really hard to have gratitude for the hard stuff too. But it's just as important to remember that it's all coming through to get us back to who we really are.
It's so important to look at the challenges and like even horrible things that happen in our lives, to look at those as a lesson and how it creates like the best. It takes you on the path to becoming the best version of yourself and like your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. With that, one thing that I really struggle with is sometimes finding the right balance between invalidating myself and the difficulty of these challenges and also holding space for the gratitude at the same time. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's so easy to say, like, and I'm grateful for the hard stuff,
Yeah.
but to actually put that into practice is like, woof. So yeah, could you talk a little bit more about that and the nuance of not minimizing the feelings, but still cultivating this sense of appreciation and gratitude for the hard stuff?
Yeah, I used to get crippling anxiety, and we all know how it could be debilitating depending on, what's going on and things like that. And now what I do is I twist things into a lesson. So, for instance, I've gone through this and I know we'll talk more about this and like what I'm going to say, but I've gone through this huge transformation healing journey. And just because I've been through that doesn't mean that I'm like 100%. Like we're still human. So I used to look at triggers that is in a negative way. And now, because I still get triggered, I got triggered the other night. And, so now I look at triggers as it's telling me to take a pause. So it's basically just giving me that knock, knock. You need to take a pause and look at what that trigger is trying to teach you.
It's information on
It's
where more growth is. Yeah.
Yes. And triggers can cause anxiety. Triggers can cause depression. But if you switch the narrative, I guess, on those triggers and think, oh, okay, where am I feeling that trigger? What kind of emotions is it bringing out? And what is it trying to teach me? It kind of now has become a game for me, like a fun, sometimes it's a fun game. Sometimes it's challenging because depending on, what that trigger is, it can be more severe than other times. But
Sure.
if you have all the power within you. So if you can change the way you look at things and, when you get triggered now, I'm not saying I'm grateful for the triggers, but it really is a reminder. It's your nervous system saying, "Hey, Tracy, you know, let's think about this, write it down, talk about it, just think about it, reflect on it." And so now it's just I try to, turn it into a positive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, to dig in more to the nitty-gritty of that, the next question I always like to ask is, what is your story? I know that this is such a big and broad question, but whatever you feel called to speak to, I am looking forward to hearing all about it.
My journey, you and I talked about, my journey, it really started when I was 12 years old. Up until 12, I lived normal, as any of our lives can be, normal,
Right.
life. And then I was in this horrific car accident. And I was the only survivor. And it was in my injuries, not just being the only survivor, but my injuries were so extreme. I was burned on 70% of my body. I had a major head injury. I was in a coma. I had to learn how to read, write, walk, talk all over again. It was so bad that I didn't even know my own name. And I actually haven't talked about this. It was so funny, like after my accident happened, because back then, I'm obviously much, much older now. Back then there weren't cell phones. We didn't have
Mm-hmm.
IDs, so I didn't literally know my own name. I actually gave EMS the wrong name. So they could not find my parents.
Wow.
So when my accident happened, it was hours before they finally were able to find my parents. And both of my cousins passed away in the accident. And do you know who called my mother? The morgue. My
Can you
mother,
imagine getting that phone
my
call? Oh
mother,
my
because
gosh.
my other cousin, Judy, who died, was another female. So they knew there were two females. One survived, one didn't. The morgue called my mother. That's how she found out. And it was literally, I was already in ICU. I had already had surgery. I had my spleen ruptured. I had to have a partial splenectomy. The internal bleeding, like I was bleeding everywhere. And not just this wasn't just the burns, and it was
Right.
funny because of the head injury, I was bleeding in my head. And they actually had to shave part of my head. And do you want to know, like, I was more upset about that. You're 12 years old. You're like, you
Yeah.
shaved my head. And I was more upset about that than at the time, that because you're not thinking straight, that the
Right.
actual burns themselves and the loss and, and all the other, injuries that happen. So that was just one of those, I think, freak accidents that happened. And it was when you're in the hospital for those type of injuries, until I got discharged, that's when my journey really started beginning, because when
Mm.
you go through years of, skin grafts and all kinds of, and they didn't have laser surgery back then. So it was, things have advanced so much. And so I went through years and years and years, and I actually got all my treatments through Shriners Hospital, and Shriners Hospital is incredible. Like, I've been their biggest advocate. I mean, they really changed, really made it possible for me to heal. And once and going through all these years of surgery, you really don't have time to process. You really don't have time to really dig deep into the emotional and mental part of it, because it's just so much. And, I
Right.
would go away, like, for instance, I would go away to Shriners Hospital for surgery. I'd go away for like 6 weeks at a time. So my teachers would send me 6 weeks of homework, and I would just do what I could,
Right.
but that was just, there's so much, like, your journey doesn't end, and so after that, so then fast forward and we can I'm sure you've got questions. We can dig more deep into this,
Yeah,
like,
sure, but keep
later, but
going. Well,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we
So
can go
fast
back.
forward to when I was 15, I was trying to live as normal as a high school student life, teenager that I could, you know? And so my friends and I went to a party, a high school party, and like any party, you don't know who's going to be there. You don't know who's going to show up. You don't know, what's going to happen. And I remember it was in an abandoned house, this party. And at this party, I was drugged and gang raped. So I went through everything I went through at 12 years old, and then this happened. And when I originally had my auto accident that I was in, I obviously wasn't driving. I was a passenger because I was 12. But when that happened, it was a very, very high profile accident in the state I lived in. So it was the police and the news. It was all over the news for years. So when I had a sexual assault happen, I was like, I am not dealing with the police anymore. And I went to a very high profile high school.
Mm.
So I knew that if I said anything, my parents were probably going to pull me out of school. Where would I go? They didn't have online classes and things back then. The internet didn't exist. And so now you can kind of age me, kind of. But that didn't exist. And the police would be all over it because of the high profile school it was at and all over the news. And I just couldn't mentally deal with that again. I had had enough of that already. So I didn't say a word to anybody. I never told a soul about it until literally a few years ago. I
Mm.
suppressed all of this for 40 years. And so it was, and honestly, I pray to God that me not coming out and saying anything, that it didn't happen to anybody else. Like, I'm hoping that didn't cause another horrible person to get sexually assaulted by me not speaking up. Um, but honestly, at the time, emotionally, I just couldn't. I couldn't come forward with it. And I understand why. And since then I've told my parents no, like I've told,
Mhm.
my family, they know about it, obviously, because I've got my podcast. And so everybody knows about it, but I understand why I didn't do it. And I kind of still stand by that
Mm.
because of the lack of help that even was available to me back then after my accident. I didn't really feel like there was any help out there for me. So I just kept it silent. And it took a lot of years like that until a few years ago when I started my whole healing journey. I didn't realize how much I had suppressed. So any of your listeners that are listening to this, whatever you're going through, we have so much more information out there now. Everybody talks about mental health. It's not a taboo thing. It's important we talk about it. It's important we talk about our nervous system. So find your people. There is help out there for you. Do not do the opposite of what I do. Like, don't suppress it for 40 years because it affected everything in my life. It affected the people I let in my life. It affected choices I made. It affected so much. And
Mhm.
I even missed out on potential great relationships because I didn't really know who I was as a person and what I wanted and what I deserved. And so I wasn't comfortable opening up and talking about it. So I also missed great opportunities, maybe that could have potentially been, a great relationship. So it goes both ways. So I think it's important that you understand that the suppression, what it really truly affects everything in your life. And a lot of
Mm.
people that go through trauma end up with autoimmune diseases, end up really sick, and I don't know how I didn't. I do not. I
Yeah.
don't know how I didn't. I was just a hot mess for years, but I didn't end up, thank goodness, getting really sick from all of it. Um, My mom always comments and jokes around and says, I think your spunk got you through everything. Because they always, called me spunky and things, which could partially be true, but it still doesn't take away from the unhealthiness of living like that for so long.
Right. Absolutely. Firstly, thank you so much for sharing. I think one, just being able to talk about
Mhm.
everything and hold space for it is already so healing for
Yeah.
other people listening. And i- even though, yes, we are in an age where mental health is so much more talked about and not as taboo, I think it's still so hard to be the person in the midst of it, thinking there's something wrong with me. I'm the problem. I don't trust anyone to talk about this, and just
Yes. The trust
having
is
it.
huge.
Yes. So thank you for the work that you do. And one thing I want to say, just for whatever it's worth, I completely understand the uh kind of feeling of like, oh my God, I hope these people that hurt me didn't hurt anyone else.
Mhm.
But I also just want to throw out there that will always be those people's fault. Like, if
Yes.
heaven forbid someone else was hurt or harmed or sexually assaulted, that is on the perpetrators and the
It
predators.
so is. And it's so funny because where this happened, I don't live in that state anymore where I grew up, but where this happened, the statute of limitation has run out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to be honest, the universe takes care of everything, karma, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to believe in. So I'm really at peace with that because I know that the universe, and I'm not wishing harm on other people, but I have an
Sure.
idea. I kind of have an idea of who some of the boys were. And I know at the very least, they know something, even if they didn't physically do anything, at the very least. And I know that they have families now. And I would never want to destroy these innocent children and you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, the universe, I'm totally at peace with that. I'm like, the universe will take care of it. I don't have to worry about it. And I'm not going to rip this family apart. These kids that they have don't deserve that. And I'm not going to do it. That's not
Mm-hmm.
who I am. And I feel like I can put my energy into something more positive, which I'm doing. So it's really important that whatever you've been through, yes, it's important that you survive that and you get past it, but you do not stick in victim mode
Mm.
because that's almost more unhealthy than suppressing it, is staying in victim mode.
Describe what victim mode is to you when you use those words. What does that look like?
Yeah, there's people. I actually have some people in my life that are like this, and when you're in victim mode, it's constantly like, woe's me.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling sorry for yourself. And don't get me wrong, you do need to allow yourself to have moments like that, to have that, you know, regret and, go through the why me's. Go through that. Go through, why did I have to go through this? Have those moments, but get yourself out of it, because playing the victim mode you're not going to heal if you stay in the victimology area. So I think you need to allow yourself that time and that grace to have those moments, but also give yourself the time and education to know how to get out of it, because I don't consider myself a victim. Yes, I went through hell. Yes, I was sexually assaulted, but I'm a survivor. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a victim. And I don't ever want to be labeled that. And I think that if you're just in the beginning stages of your healing journey, I think it's important, like I said, that you do give yourself that time, because that's healthy. And I think you really need to, you'll learn. going through that what you need. Like, do you need a hug every day? Do you need a support system that you can talk to? Do you need, do you need to see a therapist? Do you need to do, like, I just did hypnotherapy a month ago. It was incredible. Figure out what you need, because you'll learn that going through that, but don't stay in there.
Hey y'all, it's Reese, just briefly interrupting our conversation to ask you what you think so far. Have you ever had a paradigm shift moment where one thing changed and you decided, this is the moment. This is the moment that I'm going to take back control of my life? If so, I would love to hear about it. I find those inception moments, those cruxes in our lives to be so transformative and so pivotal and so inspiring to me, but also I'm sure so many others. So I would love to talk about that in the comments wherever you may be listening or watching. Also, let me know what you think about the conversation so far. I would love to hear from you. Please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, boost the algorithm for me. If you're on a cell phone and you're on YouTube, hype the video. It's a new little feature that YouTube has that will definitely be helpful for the algorithm for me. And those are all of the very best ways to support the Cohere Collective. And they're all totally free, which is also awesome. So that means a lot to me. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this conversation. Let's get back to it. It does feel like maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but one step beyond suppression, where it's like, okay, we're acknowledging what happened. It's at the forefront. We're bringing our conscious awareness to this.
Yes.
But you can't only stay with the acknowledgement, because then it's almost like that weight is too heavy just to hold and carry and let it be the like huge rock on your back, right? It's like at some point you not only are allowed, but like set it down and try, and obviously it will always be a part of your story, of course, and I would never want to take that away from someone, but for it to define you is a different thing.
Exactly. And I've had those moments when I broke down and I've been like, why me? Like, why has this all happened to me? But you know what? Honestly, why not me? Like, I'm no more special than anybody else. And I honestly wouldn't ever wish this on anybody else. I would never want anybody else to go through that. So I'm taking it. I'm taking one for the team, right? I'm taking it, but I'm going to turn it into a positive, and I'm going to let people know that how incredible life is once you get through that door of that healing journey. And I don't ever want somebody to feel sorry for me. I've had moments where I felt sorry for myself, and then I was like, what? I'm better than this. Like, I am stronger than this, and this is not going to define me. And I, for sure, the hell, am not going to be labeled as a victim. Because I'm a badass, and that's why I created Trauma Rock Stars, because I am one,
There you go. Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, and to be able to, like, I love the language of rock star too, that it's like when you think of that, you think of someone high power, high energy on stage in front of people, owning their truth, their authenticity, in any shape, size, color, volume. Like it doesn't matter, just showing up with truth and power and for all the world to see. And it's extremely vulnerable, especially when it's something like trauma that we're talking about. But for that to be what charges that to be a motivator, I think is so, so powerful. I do want to go back and maybe we can work through some of my questions chronologically.
Sure.
But first, I want to go back to the car wreck, because I think the word survivor's guilt, or I guess it's 2 words, the phrase survivor's guilt is thrown around so quickly. And I think everyone has heard it and knows approximately what it is. But it's something that, for all of the research and knowledge that there is out there about different experiences with mental health and trauma, That's one that I don't think has been super, like, I feel like the words I hear now is like abuse and abandonment, narcissism,
Oh, don't
gaslighting.
get
Like,
me
these are
started
the
with
ones.
narcissism. Yeah.
I know the overuse of therapy language is a
Yeah.
real pet peeve of mine, but survivor's guilt is something like you hear it, but I haven't heard it like overly in depth talked about
Mhm.
in the same way as some of these other things. Talk to me a little bit about what that actually, as an experience, felt like. If you did experience, I don't want to presume that you experienced survivor's guilt, but I would imagine that might be part of your story. And
Mhm.
especially with it being family, how did that manifest for you? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you said the magic word, manifest. I didn't even know I had it, to be honest
Mm,
with you. I didn't know I was carrying the survivor's guilt. I mean, I was obviously like devastated that my cousins didn't make it. They didn't deserve that, you know? But I didn't realize how much of that survivor's guilt I was carrying until I really started on this journey a couple years ago. And what brought that out is meditation and manifesting. So it's funny you
mm,
said, how did that manifest? Well, that's exactly how. And so when I was, I really started meditation is what really kicked off my healing journey. Because to be honest with you, I didn't even know how fucked up I was until I started
sure.
meditating. And then all of a sudden, I got all this information when I was meditating, and I was like, holy crap, like I'm a mess. Like I am, like I said before, I was a hot mess. I didn't realize what a mess I was. And so I'm like, okay, I have a lot of work to do. I need to put me first and I need to anything, and it took a lot. It took time to figure, like, I guess, get my healing pace,
Yeah.
get your groove because it's everyone's journey is different. So it took me a while to figure out like how to do that. And
Yeah.
we all have it within, like, no one's coming to be your hero. Like,
No. Yeah.
you've got to do it yourself. You've got to do the work. But meditation is where I got these answers. And so the survivor's guilt, it's almost like that little whisper. You don't even realize it. It's so subtle. It's because it's probably so deep. It's probably buried so deep inside that survivor's guilt that it's so subtle. You don't even realize it. And so the meditation is what really made me realize that you know, I was having that for all these years. And to be honest with you, I'll probably have a inkling of it the rest of my life because when you're the only survivor of something like that or something horrific happens, how can you not? Like you never stop
Right.
grieving the loss of your loved ones. And my one cousin who lost his life, like he and I were very, very close. Like we were like brother's sister. So you never really, and to be honest with you, I don't want to ever lose that because they deserve for me to carry their memory
Mm.
and to remember that. So I don't know if I ever want that to fully go away because I want to honor their lives and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again,
And there
I'm
is,
trying to turn it into positive.
yeah. Well, and I think one thing that you said that's actually so powerful is like, I don't even know if that's really what I want, right? And
Yeah.
the question that popped up for me is, what is the goal of a healing journey? Because one, like you said in the beginning, there's always going to be more to do. There's always a growth edge.
There's
There's always
always
something.
work.
And
Yeah.
even for people who have, I think these people are pretty few and far in between, but have no trauma, perfect childhoods, all of the
Well, that
things,
doesn't
even
exist anymore because the whole world went through 9/11 and the pandemic. So
COVID. This is true.
there's not a soul that went through that hasn't been, that's trauma right there. So,
That's absolutely true. Well, yeah, and all these shared traumas. I think um, no matter what your experience with that is, there's always something that you can grow and improve
Mm-hmm.
through. And I've never really, I think when I first started therapy and doing my own work, it was very much like the goal is to be healed, period, right? Like whatever that looks like. As younger me was like that, the perfectionism of it all, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like that's healed is not the goal. The goal is this evolving relationship with self that is trusting of the self and knowing
Mm-hmm.
that I am here and I have my own back and I'll be okay because I'm here. What is the goal of the healing journey to you? Because I totally agree. It's like the goal isn't even to like get rid of these things or to
Right.
never have another trigger or to be able to handle anything at any time. It's like that's not really what we're after. But what is the goal?
So I think the goal now for me, so I can talk about this and I can answer, like, nothing's off the table. I can answer any questions and I can be calm and my nervous system's relaxed. I'm not tensing up. I'm very comfortable speaking about this. And that's the goal, is to just be at
Mm,
peace, right? To be able to do this. And the more you find your people, and the more you can talk about it, the easier it gets. And
mm,
everybody's journey is different. So I'm not saying that if you have work to do, that doesn't mean you have to talk about it to the world. You have to start a podcast like I did. That doesn't everybody's that's just for work what works for me, but to be no matter what, whether you're talking about it with a therapist or a loved one or a community like I built with Trauma Rockstars, you need to be able to talk to it with ease and peace in your body and your nervous system. And when you do that, you win.
mm.
You know that there's still times I'll talk about things and of course I'm going to get a little upset about things and stuff, but that's okay. It's different. It's a different it's not a traumatic upset from the trauma. It's more just life and being human kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I'm at the point now with my journey. Like I said, I just did a hypnotherapy session a month ago. I am like, I want to dig as deep as possible. And what really catapulted me, like it shot me, it was like a rocket that shot me through that door of healing, was I did MDMA therapy.
Mm.
And are you familiar with what that is?
A little bit, but go ahead and give us the broad strokes.
Yeah. So I had been already meditating pretty extensively for a couple years. So I had already done a ton of work. So last year I went on vacation and I heard about this incredible book. You got to read this incredible book, New York Times bestseller. And I'm like, okay, so I got this book to bring with me, and I'm still old school. I still like actual books in my hand,
I do too.
and I don't know. Just can't jump on the audio book bandwagon or anything yet, but get this book, bring it on vacation with me, have no idea what it's about. And it's about this woman who got sexually assaulted by somebody she trusted, a teacher, when she was about the age as me, young, teenage years. And this went on for years. And she had been suppressing it for 40 years as well. This is a true story. And what had happened was her husband was doing some research and was learned about MDMA. Well, when I read about this in this book, you could have knocked me over because I never even heard of MDMA before, and it goes into very specific details about what it is. And when I was reading about it, you want to talk about your nervous system going crazy. My entire body, I almost was having convulsions. My entire
Mm.
body started shaking, like out of control. And my boyfriend was like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know what's wrong." And it almost like it woke up my nervous system to be like, "We need you. We need your help.
Yeah.
Like you really need you." I knew at the time, everything in my gut, in my heart, knew that I needed to research this MDMA. I just had a feeling that that was the next step for me, that that's what I needed.
Yeah.
So the book, I have it right here. It's called The Tell by Amy Griffin, and it's incredible, but it trigger warning. It's obviously
Sure.
gonna trigger you. And one of these days, I'm going to meet this woman and give her a huge, her and her hubby, give her a huge hug because they've changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm the type of person that I go down a rabbit hole. So I
Mm-hmm.
started doing tons of research because I'm like, if I'm even going to consider this, I need to know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, of course.
So what MDMA is, MDMA was actually, they were doing this treatment back in the 70s and 80s, even the 60s, I think it even was, for a lot of soldiers that would come back from war with complex PTSD. And what it is it's the key ingredient that's in ecstasy. It's not ecstasy, but it's the key ingredient that's in ecstasy, and it's a microdose of what it is. And what it does is it gives you the ability to dig deep into your subconscious and really understand what's going on. So you can't do something like this without being with a trusted advisor. I want to
Of
say that
course.
first. And I want to say number two is you really need to be ready. And I had already done so much work. So I was,
What does ready I want to keep going down this track, but I don't want to
we
lose
will.
this thread just real quick. What does ready mean? Because I know that there are different levels of like, you have to peel back a few layers before certain things feel safe enough to come forward. What
Yes.
does ready in this context mean?
So what MDMA does is it really, you take a deep dive into your life. Like things are going to come up that that you never even knew could come up. Um, and with me, like with my car accident, my head injury, I didn't remember any of it because my head injury
Mm,
was so severe. So I didn't know if maybe that was going to come back out. Like, am I going to remember the accident, the assault, because I was drugged? Am I going to remember the sexual assault? These are all things that could surface.
hmm
But honestly, I was so far like along, and I had so much confidence in myself that I had already been through the worst. I could handle it.
Yeah.
Whatever was going to surface, I knew I could handle it. So you have to have that confidence in where you're at in your path, right? So when I was doing my research, I actually found a therapy center out here by me that offers this. And it's done through a psychologist and a psychiatrist, sorry. And I found the center. So I reached out to them, and I had to go through so much intake forms, lots and lots of calls with them because you can't just give it to anybody.
Right.
And
Of
then
course.
what pages and pages of questions had to be answered. And then the psychiatrist reviews your case to determine what would be the best modality for you because they do other things too. They don't just do MDMA, they do psychedelics, they do hypno, they do all different kinds of treatments. But she determined that she did feel that MDMA would be probably the best modality for me. So she paired me with one of her therapists, and she knew exactly the right therapist to pair me with because she was the right person for me. And we actually met, like we did some sessions before because you're basically putting your entire subconscious brain into these people's hands.
Right. The amount of safety you have to cultivate in that relationship
The
is really
safety,
big.
and I've got the most trust ever. For my therapist name's Allie. I've actually had her on the show. Um, but she's incredible. And there was no doubt in my mind that I was with the right person. So we set the date for it after a couple sessions. Because talk therapy never worked for me. It was never,
Interesting.
and there's a lot of amazing therapists out there, and it's worked for a lot of people. It just didn't work for me at all. And we can get into that a little bit later too, if
Sure.
you want. But so it was about an hour away from where I live. So we set the date. I was driving up there. It was a Saturday morning, and I could not find this place. So even though I left plenty of time, I gave myself time, I could not find this place. So I was running behind. So by the time I found them and got in, we were already like a half an hour behind schedule. I walk in and Allie's there holding the medicine. She's got the pill in her hand holding the medicine, and I'm frantic because we're running
Right.
and I want to be respectful of her time and everything. So there I'm like, holy crap, she's holding the pill. I took it and I swallowed it, and I'm like, okay, well, there's no turning back now. There's no
Yeah.
out at this point. So it was probably almost good that we were running a little late, because maybe I would have changed my mind or chickened out. I don't know. But so there was no turning back. So
Right. You're just moving and it's like, we're not going to stop the train right now. We're just going to keep going.
right, right. And so it was funny, but it wasn't funny kind of thing.
Of course.
So we were in this very calm room. This was done in person. We were in this very calm room and very dim lights, and I had like an eye mask on, and I had very headphones on with very soft, soothing music. It was so low that she and I could still talk and have a conversation and everything. And my session was about 4 hours long.
Wow.
I recorded it. Like I recorded it with my phone, the whole session. I still haven't watched the whole thing, but it was incredible. Like it started kicking in. She's like, you're gonna, it's gonna start to kick in. And when you're going through this, I want people to understand you're not out of control. Like I was laying there, we were talking through the whole thing. If I needed to get up to go to the bathroom, I could have. So you're not taking something and then you wake up and remember everything. You know exactly what's going on while it's happening. Same thing with the hypnotherapy session, the exact same thing. But it kicked in about 40 minutes after I took it. Like I could feel it starting to kick in after about a half an hour, and about 45 minutes in, it kicked in, and I was like, holy crap. I'm like, Allie, and she was sitting right next to me. I'm like, Allie, like this is not like this. I'm nervous. Like I got scared. And she's like, you're fine. She goes, this is all part of it. And she goes, let's breathe. Let's do breath work. And most of my therapy sessions with her are all about breath work. That's like what we do. We meditate together, we manifest, and we do breath work. Like that's what my sessions have turned into. But she's like, you're fine. She goes, this is, and she would explain, this is what's happening. They call it the climb. So, you're starting to peak. And so as she was explaining it to me, I understood what was going on. So I was able to like not freak out or anything like that. It was a very calm experience. And holy shit, did I see like things that I just never would have imagined. And I didn't see anything that's scary. Everything, that's the beauty with MDMA, and you need to be doing it with a qualified provider and somebody you trust. But what the MDMA does is it's almost kind of like an out of body experience, I guess. You're looking at it through a lens of love, care, affection. You're looking at it like in such a positive way. And that's what's so incredible about the medicine, because it gives you the opportunity. So some of these soldiers that would come back with this complex PTSD, they would do these MDMA journeys, and and it would take them back through the horrible war that caused the
Right.
PTSD, but they looked at it as a totally different light. Instead of looking at it as something that's scary, you look at it as something with growth and love and affection. And it's almost like you become your own like guardian angel guiding you through the journey again.
It's so funny because the two things that popped into my head were, one, A Christmas Carol first, when
Uh-huh.
Scrooge is being taken through all these different
Yes.
phases. But of course, it from how you're describing it, you're not Scrooge, but you're like celebrating these moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that occurred to me was Virgil in Dante's Inferno, that there is
Yes.
this kind of guardian figure leading you through this experience. But again,
Yes.
both of those examples are definitely tinged with this, I mean, at best, regret, at worst, eternal damnation. So it's interesting to hear this different perspective. And I do think that is something that a lot of people with different plant medicines and psychedelics going into it. I know for me, because it's something I'm very interested in my own spiritual and healing path
Yeah.
of doing eventually. But I know that's certainly a thought that I have is, well, what if, it does, there's always the potential of, like, even in talk therapy, you can re-traumatize theoretically if you
Mm-hmm.
go too far into that same state of nervous system disruption, right? Um, what is it about MDMA, do you think, either scientifically brings out this more, for lack of a better term, like rose-colored lenses with
Right. That's
everything?
exactly what it is.
Or is it just the feeling that patients get on this is more positive? Like, what is it about this experience or the medicine?
Well, I think that there are people that have bad experiences and
Mm,
you can be re-traumatized. It's very important that you do as much education as you can.
sure, of course.
But I don't think it's possible for it to be a negative experience if you're with the right guide. And Allie was my
Mm,
guide through the journey, and I would have, trusted her with anything. And it's very important to have that because if you don't, it could re traumatize you. It could be a negative experience. But my experience was so beautiful. I mean, I got answers that I never knew I needed, right?
mm,
One thing that came out is when when I was looking back through everything, because my body started shaking when I first learned about the MDMA.
yeah.
Same thing was happening. And I'm like, Allie, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, I started getting nervous because I was like shaking. And she goes,
Mhm.
this is your nervous system letting go of all of this that you've been suppressing for 40 years.
Yeah.
Your body needs this. And so once she explained that to me, I was like, "Oh my gosh, bring it on." Like,
Right. The
take
somatic, like,
take
let it
yes,
out. Yeah.
get it out. Like, and I was sweating and I'm like, "Get it out, just get it out, get it out, get it out." And I literally talk about shaking for 3 hours. I was shaking, but once I understood what was going on, I knew my body needed that. So
Mm,
that was going on, and then the one big message that I got was I actually needed to forgive myself. And I was shocked because I never was like, why do I have to forgive myself? Like what did I do or whatever? But when I looked back at the time I wasted, like our
mm,
journeys are our journeys, and I know that you can't look back with regrets. But going through this process, I was looking back at all this time that I wasted in my life because it took me so long to get to this healing place. I wasted all this time, shitty people in my life, shitty choices, shitty jobs, shitty putting up with crap from so many people that, I didn't need to because I didn't really know my worth. And so I really needed to go deep and forgive myself for all that wasted time,
Mm.
because if I was in the frame of mind I am now back then in my 20s and, 30s, I would have been probably a totally different trajectory of my life.
Yeah, of
But
course.
you don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
so I really had to do a lot of self forgiveness. And even though, obviously I didn't do anything to need to be forgiven, but I did, because
Right.
now I look back and I'm like, oh, well, now I know why I had this boyfriend. Now I know why I was friends with this person. Now I know why I hung out with these people. It was all trauma related,
Mhm.
and so that was the biggest lesson for that. And another beautiful thing with MDMA is that when you go through trauma, your body completely shuts off all the happy chemicals that are in your body, all your serotonin, endorphins, everything. It shuts off when you go through trauma. Well, guess what? The MDMA turns it back on. It's like a light switch. It turns it all back on, and it doesn't shut off. Like once it's back on, it's back on. Like the light bulb doesn't run out. So when it turned that back on, it completely, like, I just felt so much relief,
Mm.
and that shaking that I had was such a release of all of
Yeah.
that too. So it was relief and release, I guess. So once that, like, it's been almost a year. It'll be a year in May, and I still like that. It's permanent. Back in my body now, like that. Those happy chemicals are back, and
Mm.
and so that's another beautiful thing with
Yeah.
doing this journey. And I know psychedelics do that as well, which that's
Mhm.
my next thing. I'm very
Yeah.
so now that I've done this and I've seen what I've seen, like, internally, I'm, like, ready to go as deep as I can. It's
Yeah.
almost like a game for me now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Who was
"Okay,
I talking
I'm
to?
on it. How deep can I get?" Like,
Yes, what level can I get to?
yeah,
I
because
was talking to someone about this and their healing journey. I'm like, it must have been another episode of the podcast that I was recording. Um, but they were talking about how when you fully surrender to the process, even though it, like you said, it's not always like, woohoo, fun time, but there is
right.
something really fun about the journey of self knowledge and getting better that you stay hungry for
Mhm.
because you know now what it feels like to be on the other side of it and to have this self knowledge. And when you hit that breakthrough, it is just like the horizons that feel like they open up for you. It's like I just want to keep doing that again and again and again for the rest of my life with anything I can do. So I absolutely
Yeah.
resonate with what you're saying there.
You just brought up something that I haven't really talked about, but not that it just hasn't come up, but
Yeah,
when
please.
when she brought me back, like I said, I was there the whole time, but
Mhm.
at the end of the session, I guess, when I was getting ready to leave, I was still very shaky because it
Of
takes,
course.
obviously, that I've got that medicine in my system, and I was still very shaky. And the drive home, like, my boyfriend drove me home, and I was like, holy shit, like, I couldn't even speak. Like, have you ever heard that song, You Can Only Imagine? And they talk about, like, if I ever see God, will I even have the words to speak?
Mhm.
Right? That's how I was. I couldn't even put into words what happened in the experience and that journey. And I was driving home and I was like, holy shit. Like, I cannot believe that just happened, like, in a good way, but I was
Yeah.
still very shaky. So, you know how when you see people, like, they get baptized and they just, like, submerge themselves in water? Well, I couldn't wait to get home because all I wanted to do was jump in the pool. They call it water therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted, like, I almost like, as soon as I got home, I stripped my clothes off and I jumped in that pool. It was almost like it was like a cleanse.
Yeah.
And there was something about, I just couldn't, I just kept saying, like, I need to get home. I need to get in the pool. I need to get in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And I just needed, like, that was, I'm very drawn, like, I love water anyway. And the beach, of course. I mean, who doesn't? But I know you're like, you're not very original, but you know what
But
but I
I do know exactly what you
yeah,
mean, and
I
it's
couldn't
making
wait to get home and just jump in that pool and get that. And so that's what I did. And
mm-hmm.
I was still very shaky, so I didn't stay in there long, but it was almost like I just needed that final cleanse to get,
Yeah.
whether it was the pool or a hot shower or whatever you got to do. But that was one thing that I really needed.
Yeah. One thing that keeps kind of coming up for me that I'm thinking about throughout your story are these ways that the physical and the I don't necessarily want to say mental because it's mental, emotional, it's consciousness. So
Yeah.
I'll say like the physical and the non-physical are so interrelated. And even in the portion of your story with the car wreck, it's like, yes, there is the head trauma that affects your memory and your name and the survivor's guilt of it all, but also you had such a physical healing journey with the physical trauma of your brain, the physical trauma on your body,
Yeah.
and how those traumas are both trying to heal at the same time. And then same thing with being drugged and sexually assaulted. It's like that's such a physical and emotional violation. And
Mhm.
both of those aspects are being harmed and need to heal. And now with this MDMA story, this idea of like your body is shaking, you want this like physical water cleansing. Like there's something very like tactile about all of that, but it is also still so deeply related to the experience that you had in your consciousness of going back. I don't know. What do you make of that? These kind of parallel healing journeys. And of course we know how interrelated the spirit, the mind, and the body all are, but when it comes to this idea of a healing journey, how do you categorize all those together? Because I'm sure, especially with the car accident and relearning how to walk and the physical healing is that's a very prevalent aspect of that. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Well, I have some, I can let you know my personal. So what I had to do is I really needed to do some reflection on what that healing journey is going to look like for me and what I needed for me, Tracy, for that healing journey. So going through meditation is when I really learned about your inner child.
Mm,
So, if anybody out there is thinking about maybe starting meditation, that's one tool that is very, very powerful. It really puts you in touch with your inner child. And what it does is you'll get these answers of what, when I think back to, I'm not even going back to 12, I'm going back to when I was 6,
right.
right? Like what that little girl needed. And then here's me going to my down to my inner child and giving that child the comfort and whatever that means, whatever that looks like. And it's not even like a big warm hug, it's more the energy. It's more about the energy. So I really had to learn what that inner child needed. And I
Yeah.
needed to become that therapist, counselor, guide, my own, my own guardian angel, like we said, to what
Mhm.
that was. And everybody's journey is different, but I really learned what I needed through meditation because I got those answers. So, in conjunction with that, with meditation, then I learned about my higher power. And I was like, holy crap, like she's a badass. Like I want to be her when I grow up, right? So what your higher power is is it's you. It's everything and anything that you are capable of and that you want to
Mm-hmm.
be, and this incredible being and this incredible energy source. So you see that person too. So when I meditate, I always meditate to my higher power because we're so critical of ourselves in the human body form, My higher power, there's nothing to be critical of. Like, she's incredible. So when I meditate to that. So it's almost like the higher power is coming down to grab that inner child
Mm,
and give that inner child, that little girl, what she needs at that
yeah,
time. And when you're digging deep through meditation, like, you can't cherry pick what it is. Like, the
right.
universe gives you what you need, whether you want it or not. And I can talk to you a little bit about that with my hypnotherapy session because, like, I got some incredible information there. But so it's almost like the two are meeting and then you're just the referee,
Kind of intersection. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right between both. But it's such an incredible experience because you learn what you needed as a child, but you also learn what you can be if you do the work and you see that in your higher
Mm-hmm.
power. So it's so amazing. Like, it's almost like another universe, another dimension that's available out there for you to get these answers. And you will get the answers. You just need to put in the time.
Right.
Um, and meditation isn't for everybody. I mean, it's called a practice for a reason because there's like my meditation this morning, it sucked, to be honest. It just like
There's the days where you're distracted and
it was
yeah,
terrible.
yeah,
And I'm
it
like, I
happens.
need to just, there's days that are better than others. And there's
Mm-hmm.
days like that are, but I do it so much now that sometimes I'll lay in bed just to unwind for the night to get ready to go to sleep. And all of a sudden, like, I'll get this huge download of information. I didn't even ask for it. I wasn't even trying. And it'll come through. And now I know the triggers, like, that I'm like, oh boy, I'm starting to get a message. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel it in my legs or whatever. It's
Yeah.
crazy how it takes you to this whole other part of,
Yeah.
like almost like a dimension, really.
Right. Well, and I think one thing too about this community, like almost being the mediator of this communication between aspects of self,
Yeah.
one thing that I have found so powerful is not just like giving your inner child what she needs, but also holding space for her to feel safe needing what she needs.
Hmm.
Because I think so often, especially with women, we're told you can't need anything, that your needs are second order. Your needs are not the most important thing. And if you need anything, that's actually inconvenient. And that's this whole like, don't take up space. And then to be the one to gift yourself with the space to
Yes.
just need, like,
Yes.
there's something so sacred about desire too. And it's like the fact that you just want something or need something, eh, and to allow that to happen and experience it with yourself, I think is so beautiful. And one thing I also want to ask you about, because I think for me, healing has always been deeply spiritual.
Yes.
I was growing up in the South, in the Bible Belt. Certainly the language I was given for all of that was Christianity. And now I've developed my own kind of language around how I
Hmm.
like to consider these things. But I know not everyone going through trauma healing or physical trauma healing is necessarily thinking about these things in exactly the same way. It sounds like we similarly think about them.
Hmm.
Why for you has this experience become so spiritual? And maybe if there's another word you resonate with more than spiritual, please let me know. But um, why is that an element here? And I know for me, there is mind, body, and spirit, but
Hmm.
not everyone connects to all these pieces or kind of thinks about it differently. Um, why is that a big part of your healing?
Well, first, I'm going to say there's no playbook. Like,
Mm,
there's no right or wrong to your journey. Like if you know somebody's listening, their journey could be very different than yours and ours. That there's nothing wrong with that. It's
Yeah.
your journey. You
Yes.
decide. It's up to you. But what made why it's so important to me now, and why only surround myself with people that support that, is because once and this is what I'm telling you guys, you have to put in the work. It's so worth it, because once you get to the other side of it, you see what's possible and you see how far you can go with it. And honestly, like, you think there's what, billions of people on the planet. You're like, I'm just this little tiny pebble of sand in this entire planet. But the thing is everything functions on energy. Everything's about energy. And the universe needs you to be your authentic self. And the universe needs for you to know who that is deep inside.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important, because you think like, I don't have the time. I'm not worth it. I have to think about my kids. I have my husband. I have my job. You're not, you're not giving 100%. You are not like showing up as the authentic person you can be. You owe that to yourself, and they all deserve that. You deserve that. Everybody in your life deserves that. The whole universe, us that don't even know you, who your energy, it all affects everything. So you owe that to yourself. So you need to look at that, where by me not showing up and doing this and learning this about myself, you're just doing yourself a disservice,
Mm-hmm.
because it becomes very easy once you know that. You find the time, you find the moments,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden it just starts coming to you. You don't even have to. It becomes effortless. and
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like just starting a new hobby. You just need to put in the practice and do it and put yourself first. And there's days, even with meditation, like there's days I like overslept or something, or I don't have time, but I can pull off a 60-second meditation in the shower. Everybody's got that 60 seconds in the shower. You owe that to yourself. So you
Mm-hmm.
need to look at it where, like, the world needs you,
Yes.
and your family needs you, and your friends need you, and your goals and your aspirations. Like, think about the life you want. You can have whatever life you want. You can create that life for yourself, and say no to anything else that isn't directing you toward that. And so one thing that is, most people don't start doing their healing journey because of fear. A lot of it is fear driven, the unknown, which is totally normal, because, that's how I was too for a long time. But you can't, like I said, you've been through the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You've been through the worst. You can't not do that. You owe it to yourself. And the fear part of it is exactly why you're going to get these beautiful answers that aren't actually scary. And I just can't stress enough, like, how much you put it doesn't actually take a lot of time. Like, people might be listening and be like, "Oh, I don't have time for this. This is so overwhelming. I can't deal with this." Or maybe next month, or maybe next year, or maybe when I'm 50 someday I'll deal with it. No. It doesn't really take much. It is very, very little baby steps. That's all it is.
Yeah. I love that. And I love what you said a little bit ago too, that it's like the world deserves it too, deserves for you to do your work. Because that's something that I always say, because I think it can be really hard to do this work for ourselves, just in and of and for ourselves, even though we're all worthy of that. I think sometimes that's the hardest pill to
Mhm.
swallow, kind of similar to this self-forgiveness that you were talking about. And I think it can be a little bit easier sometimes to remind yourself of how important it is, that it's like, not only of course, foundationally, you are so worthy and deserving of this work and the life of your dreams, but also the world deserves it too.
Mhm.
Please do not deprive the world of your truth,
Yeah.
of your authenticity. We need it.
And I think the fear, because trauma causes a lot of us to be in unhealthy relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
there could be a lot of toxic things going on in your life. And, dealing with the journey, you're going to kind of be like, oh, well, you like, I was engaged. I started my healing journey. I'm not engaged anymore. You know, um, people are going to naturally fall off, that maybe because they're not, once you start healing, like they're not necessarily in alignment with you anymore. Your energy is, maybe different. So people just naturally fall off, which that has happened, with me. But it happens in a way that it opens up doors for all these new incredible people to come in that are at the same energy level that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And like you and I never would have met if it wasn't for this, So
Right.
this is a perfect example. Like it never would have happened. So what it does is it creates space for all these I've got these new incredible people in my life I didn't even know 2 years ago, but they're
Right.
amazing. And I've gotten very protective of myself
Mm-hmm.
because I'm very protective of that energy and who has access to me.
Well, and it goes back to that inner child too, right? It's
Yes.
because you're protecting her. And it's like,
Yes.
she deserves my protection. And when you were saying like people fall away, I've been doing a lot of work with desire recently.
Mhm.
And of course, there's all sorts of journal prompts and things out there to kind of get to the root of your desires and what you want, and the cross currents that it's like, what's preventing me from co-creating this life? And one of the questions that I was meditating on the other day was, who am I afraid of losing if I achieve my dream life, if I receive my dream life? And it's like, whoa, that is part of the
That just
blocks,
gave
right?
me a little, like, goosebumps, like, yeah, that's so true.
And sometimes it is like, not that it is a value judgment or a critique or a you're good, you're bad, whatever, I hate you. No, it is a what do we need and what are we
Right.
bringing to each other's lives? Like you said, it's the energy of it all, which sounds like such a uh, easy trite kind of like, oh, it's all energy. But it's like, at the end of the day, that's the basics of
It
our
is.
world.
It
Yeah.
is, and it's not that, and I don't want people to listen to this and think that this sounds conceited or that you're better than other people. It has nothing to do with that. It
Mhm.
has to do with what is aligned with you and where your journey is. So what is aligned with you will come to you. So, and I want people to understand, like, everything that happened in the past, like these relationships that I had, that was all my own, because everything's a reflection
Mhm.
of what you're putting out there. So where your energy level is what's going to reflect back to you.
Mhm.
So don't worry about people falling off, or like you said, like, who might I lose in this process? It's just going to happen naturally. You're not even going to notice half the time.
Right.
Or you might be like I said, I'm not engaged anymore. Not a big deal. I've moved on from that relationship, and it just
Yeah.
kind of flows naturally.
Mhm. Well, and not to say that, like, that doesn't come with grief and, processing and integrating all of that too, but I do think another thing I've been really thinking about is, like, your dream life is going to cost you the life you have right now.
Yes.
You can't keep living this life and have the life of your dreams, so things are gonna change, and change is hard. We don't like change, but that's why we hold ourselves back where we are right now. That's why we get in our own way. Um,
You
a
just
few more
mentioned
questions.
Ask your question, but you just mentioned grief. I want to talk about this for a minute.
Please, no, let's go on to grief, and then we'll
because it's a good segue, because one thing about grief is that as you do go through this journey, this is where I was saying you need to give yourself a lot of space and grace, because you will grieve that life before. You will, because it's a part of you. It's in your heart. It's in your soul. You will grieve part of that. So you need to allow yourself to do that, and to grieve that life before, but give yourself that moment, but then move on and look forward to what's coming. So I did want to bring that up about grief, because you're like, well, how am I going to grieve myself? I'm here, I'm alive. But you do go through a little period where you do grieve that, because it's all you've known.
Right. Well, it's kind of making me think of the baptism analogy you used earlier. Like, that is a symbol of death and rebirth, and you're grieving that death of the old life. And of course, like, every single day is a new cycle of this, but we also go through these cycles within our lives and within our lifetime as a whole, right? And so it's different levels of those cycles, right?
Totally.
One thing that I wanted to ask you about, because I think that language is so important, and the way that we talk about things is so important, and I'm such a symbol person. And when you said that you couldn't remember your name when you got into the accident, that just struck such a chord in me of what a powerful representation of this, like, paradigm shift moment in your identity, right? What does your name mean to you now? And coming back to what that is, and this, like, there's something to, like, the remembrance of self in there. I think that I don't know if you have any thoughts about it, but it just felt very powerful to me.
Well, no one's ever asked me that before. Ever.
Did it.
Give yourself a little pat on the back.
Yeah.
No one ever asked me that before. And honestly, I don't think I've ever thought about it. I'm going to journal about this tonight. Talk about journaling a little bit if we have time, but I'm going to journal about this tonight. But I've never really loved my name. And I don't know why. Just growing up, I've just never really loved it. And I've got like 5 friends that are named Tracy. Like it's so funny. Like, when I was in high school, there were like 5 of us. Like, they're like, oh, the Tracys, but I've never really liked my name. And I think part of that now, because like you said, I didn't even know what it was. And now I was able, obviously, to figure it out. But now I'm like, I don't dislike it anymore. It's my name. That's all it is. It's 5 letters that, well, who I am is what I put out there for the universe to see. It doesn't really matter if I'm called Tracy, if I'm called George, if I'm called, whatever name you want to call me, asshole, whatever. You know what I mean? Name. It doesn't matter, but it does that is so minute. And I'm like, I can't believe, like, I used to grow up and I'd be like, I hate my name. I'm going to change my name when I get older. And I don't feel that anymore. So I think it kind of aligns with where I'm at emotionally and mentally now. And I am going to write about that tonight, because I think it's really important. Like, T stands for terrific, like, maybe put, do a spinoff on that, because I feel that's the part where you really need to love everything about yourself. And that's a perfect example of, there's things that you probably don't like about yourself that's so silly. Like, don't waste your energy on that.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting because it's something that you don't control either, right? That it's like, but it does just feel like such an integral part of your identity. And I think just in you talking about it and your feelings about your name having changed, it's just so indicative of the journey you've been on, right? And the
Yeah.
relationship with yourself that you've cultivated. And it's like, it's really not about the name, but the energy that exists behind it.
Yes.
And as we begin to close out, one thing that I want to make sure we get to is, why talk about this so publicly? Why have a podcast
Okay.
about it? For me, talking about these things feels so impossible, but I know that that's a rare few that want to do this work openly and vulnerably and publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found across my work, the one thing that is in common with people who go on this healing journey, build a relationship with themselves, and live in alignment with their purpose, the next step is always wanting to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love if you could just talk a little bit about the decision to share and be so open about things that are so typically kept in the dark.
Yeah. And, and again, not for everybody. So if this
Right.
is something you want to keep very private or just with your therapist or who your partner, that's perfectly normal. You don't have to be. But for me, when I started this journey, I kind of was like, especially with my cousins dying, their passing isn't going to be in vain. Like, I need to use my experience and my voice to try and help other people. And so I was like, but I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that meant. I had no clue because I have an incredible career in healthcare. So I wasn't really looking for like a job. So when I went through and again, this is answers I got through meditation. When I went through the MDMA therapy, I'm like, how does the world not know about this? And some people know about it, but
Sure.
I'm like, how does the world not know about this? This is so incredible. It's that profound of an experience. I'm like, I need to share this with the world. And so I waited. I'm like, that's when the podcast came to me. And I'm like, through meditation, through my higher power was like, you need to do a podcast. And so that's when the podcast came to me. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to wait until it didn't make sense to me to start the podcast before I finished my MDMA journey because that was such a huge part of why I was doing it. So I wanted to wait until I went through that. And then after I went through that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's on. I'm doing
Yeah.
this because this people need to know. Like, and there's so many other modalities out there for healing
Yeah.
that I just wanted people to know. Like, here's this place that you can learn about them all, like a one-stop shop kind of thing. And so I waited till after the MDMA, which I did that. It was the end of May last year. Well, my car accident anniversary is July 10th. So I'm like, that's it. I'm going live with the podcast July 10th. I'm going to take a horrible day in me and my family's lives, and I'm going to turn it into a positive, and that is the day I'm launching the podcast. And it was really symbolic and important to me to launch it that day. And so July 10th will be the 1 year anniversary coming up. But that was the whole reason why I did it. And then so the name came because before I worked in healthcare, I've been working in healthcare for a long time, but before I worked in healthcare, I worked in the music industry for very, very many years. And people that go through trauma, typically they move a lot. They live in very busy cities. They have very loud, busy lives because it masks. Like, you're not living in a cabin by yourself in the mountains.
Right. You don't have to be alone with your thoughts as much.
No. So for me, going through trauma and working in the music industry, it was like the perfect environment for me because I didn't have to deal with any of my stuff. I could just go to work, and it was the perfect atmosphere for me because you can't get louder literally than the music industry, right? So I worked in that for years and I'm very grateful for it and everything. And I met some incredible people and still have incredible friends, but that's where trauma rock stars came from.
I
So
love that.
yeah, and I'm like, what does it mean to be a trauma rock star? All you have to do is just want to be better, want to be your best self, and you're a trauma rock star. You don't have to go through all these crazy things that I did, but that's where the calling came from. And so, next thing I know, like my first 5 episodes are just about me and my journey, but the rest are I have all these incredible guests that have been through way worse things than I even have, you know, but they're all so inspiring. I mean, I've had physicians on, I've had, psychotherapists on. I've had just normal everyday people like us, but through their trauma journeys, how they've gotten through it and what they've learned and what they've, done wrong. Like, cause you do make mistakes too in the journey. You have to learn from those. So what they've done wrong, what they've done right, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And every single one of their stories are so inspiring. And, I've had attorneys on that have been through horrific abuse. And so to hear them and they're so positive and I have authors and keynote speakers and it's been so incredible. And the more you listen to this, the more healing it is. Like, I don't need to go to therapy. Like, this is therapy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, when I meet with Allie still, we meditate, we manifest, we do breath work, we do things like that. So it really is been so therapeutic and being on other podcasts like this to talk about it. And, you've had your own journey, and to just be able to talk about it it really works for me. So
Mm-hmm.
what I never really knew what my purpose was. And now I know, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know it in my
Mm.
heart. And I had a couple mediums on the show actually, and they were like, the one was like offline after the show was over. They're like, I'm getting some messages. Are you open to hear them? I need to tell you. And I'm like, hell yeah. Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, bring it all on at this point.
Yeah.
I want to know everything. And my very beloved grandfather came to her, and we knew it was him because there were identity things that were like, oh my gosh, that's Papa. My grandfather came to her and is like, you need to tell her she needs to write a book about her story and her journey. And I'm
Mm.
not an author. I never even thought about writing a book, but guess what's coming out this year? A
There
book.
you go.
I'm doing keynotes now. I'm trying to, put together a workshop. Like, I had this psychotherapist on, she's incredible. And we're trying to put together a workshop together. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it opens up all these opportunities. I just got offered to go speak in Toronto, Canada. It's all these things are happening that I figured out. Like, now I know what my purpose is. And I don't care if I only help one person. If I help one person, I've done what I'm supposed to be doing. But the feedback and the comments, a lot of people reach out to me privately, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very accessible, and you're not going to get a response from AI or somebody else. Like, you can reach out to me, but these private messages I get from people and how this has helped them and has really got them thinking and even just starting the conversation,
Yeah.
it's worth it. Every bit of it is worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making meaning part of that process for you and sharing your story with us and going so deep and doing this work. It's so important and valuable and not easy to do. as we round out the podcast, of course, links to your podcast, Trauma
Oh, yeah.
Rockstars, your social media, your website, all of that good stuff. Everything will be in the description down below. Everywhere anyone is listening or watching, they will, of course, be able to find you and Trauma Rockstars. But in light of our conversation, everything we talked about, everything we got into, is there anything we missed that we need to make sure we cover? Anything you want to go back to and clarify? Anything you want to highlight? Anything you want to underline? Anything at all? This is time for you.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours about
Yeah.
this. I mean, so many more layers to this that I could talk about. But honestly, I just want people to know that healing isn't for the weak at heart. You need to be strong, and you are strong. But your journey is going to be very unique to other people's journeys. But what I want people to do is I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and give yourself a big hug and give yourself like that pep talk that you need to get started. And research all different kinds of modalities that are out there, because like just because I did MDMA doesn't mean that that's going to work for somebody else.
Right.
Psychedelics might not work for somebody else. I did, like I said, I had an incredible hypnotherapy session a month ago. It was unbelievable. Like I went in wanting one thing and I got nothing what my goal was going in. The universe was like, oh no, you're getting what we know you need right now. And it was amazing, a beautiful experience. And so look into other things and, see what works for you. Do trial and error. That's part of it. And just know that you are worth it. There's no better time than now. Like, don't wait 40 years like I did. There's no better time than now. You're worth it. We all need you to be your authentic self and to don't be so judgmental and hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Just be strong, and you've got it within you. You've got all the tools you need within to get you to where you need to be and where you want to be with your life.
Absolutely. Well, Tracy, I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story, for sharing your energy, this time and space with me, and to close out this very expansive conversation. My very last question is, what is one word to describe how you feel right now?
Peace.
Can I ask why?
I'm just so comfortable with where I'm at in my journey, and I have so much more work to do and so many more things to explore and so many more steps I need to take to get to that life that I envision for myself. But I'm just loving the moment and the journey, and I like trust the journey. I guess that's the best thing. Like live in the moment, think about the future, set goals, think about the past a little, but live in the moment and just trust the journey, because there's no wrong or right. You're going to get where you need to be if you put in the time.
Absolutely. Tracy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you all so very much for being here with me today. And of course, a huge thank you to Tracy for her time, her energy, her vulnerability, and openness during this episode. It never ceases to amaze me the amount that people are willing to be vulnerable with in their own lives with me and through my platform. Like I said in the intro, truly sharing the depths of our soul with one another, and that being something that people are open to do to begin with is just strength of the highest degree. And on top of that, for me to be a conduit for sharing that strength is a privilege that I was going to say will never be lost on me, and I guess I can't speak for the future, but has not been lost on me so far, and I sincerely hope never will be, because it is hard to go through all of these things, much less to talk about them. And I think that talking about them is one of the most powerful things we can do to take back ownership, but also to make space for other people to feel safe with their stories too. And I have all of the respect in the world for people like Tracy and Tracy herself who are doing this work. So thank you, Tracy, and thank you for listening with openness, honesty, and safety for this community that we have, and all of us working towards coherence and meaning. If you are interested in digging more into Tracy's work or listening to her podcast, Trauma Rock Stars, links to all of that will, of course, be down below in the description wherever you are listening or watching, as well as all of her social media channels so you can follow her, keep up with her work, and follow along with the rest of her story. There will also be links down below to learn more about me, the Cohere Collective, and the heart behind making meaning if you are curious about any of those things, and links to work with me one-on-one to find and pursue your purpose, subscribe to our email newsletter, all the good stuff. Links will be down below. A huge thank you to Nicole Ostreicher from Making Meaning's art and podcast cover. You can find her on Instagram at Nicole O Creates and Nicole O Design. And a huge thank you to Tristan Morgan for Making Meaning's theme music. You can find him on Instagram at Tristan Morgan. And of course, a huge thank you to you for being truly and sincerely my favorite part of the Making Meaning process. This conversation becomes different when it hits your ears, and the way that you make meaning from it is the goal, is the hope, is the motivation behind it. So I would love to hear about how this changes the way you approach meaning and what meaning you have made out of this conversation. Thank you so very much. And as always, I hope you feel like you are living more coherently. Until next time, love.